So whenever a spring is stretched or compressed, it some strain energy will be developed in this spring, and the force developed in the spring here, force is proportional to the amount of displacement it undergone. So that is a x. For example, if it is a x, but if you write in terms of some coefficient, this is a k into x, where k is called as a stiffness of the spring. So the force taken by the spring is nothing but k into x, and if you want to increase the amount of force that can be bared by the spring, then either it should be either it should increase x, or it can be increased by increasing the value of k. But the value of k is a constant for the given material, so it's depending on the material, and the only thing that we can do is by changing the value of x. So this is the force in a spring equal to k into x. And the strain energy in the spring, that is given as a energy E equal to force into displacement. But for example, at the initial position, the force given to the spring is 0, and the displacement also 0. But after some time, we have given f amount of force, and it caused the x displacement. So we need to take the average, that is half into 0 into 0 plus k into x. Why? Because at the initial position the force applied is 0, but instead if you take f1 at the initial position for the displacement of x1, and f2 force that causes the displacement x2, then in that case we need to average this also. So instead of 0, there we will get k1 x1 plus k2 x2 off, but here it's a k into x. This is a force, this is the average of force into how much displacement it experience, that is again x. So the strain energy absorbed by the spring equal to k into x square. And here again we need to find out the potential energy and the kinetic energy of the spring. So ke kinetic energy of the spring equal to half into m x dot square, but x dot is the velocity of the spring. But here in most of the cases mass of the spring is neglected, so it automatically becomes 0. And what is the potential energy of the spring? So how to calculate potential energy? We know that pe plus te sorry ke equal to total energy. Here the total energy is nothing but strain energy given to the strain energy gained by the spring. So that is we have already derived as a half into k into x square. But here k is 0 since mass is neglected. So potential energy of the spring is becoming equal to the strain energy of the spring, that is half into k into x square. So this is how we derive the potential energy of the spring. And in so many instances we use springs in series and as well as a parallel connection. So we need to find out equivalent spring constant if the spring is used in that manner. So here I attach one more spring like this, and this is the mass. These two spring, this is a k1 and this is a k2, and I applied a force m, a force f, so that it is causing some displacement here. So since these springs are connected in a series, so what here force all here same amount of force is transferred to the spring k2, and also the same amount also transferred to the spring k1. But the displacement in this uh, spring k1 is delta 1, and the displacement in spring 2 is delta 2, and the total displacement equal to delta 1 plus delta 2. And here delta 1 equal to f by k, because force equal to k into delta 1, so delta 1 equal to f by k, and here k means k1, and here also delta 2 equal to f by k2. So if you substitute these two in this equation, f by K1 plus F by K2. And if I replace this entire system with some other spring, single spring, which is having a stiffness constant K equivalent, and which is causing the delta displacement for the same force, then that can be written as a F by K equivalent, and K is equal in all terms, so it will get cancelled, and we will K equivalent equal to K1 K2 by K1 plus K2. So whenever springs are connected in a series, then we will use this formula. So when the springs are connected, the parallel position as shown in the figure. So this is the K1 and this is the K2. Here again, F amount of force is applied, which is causing a delta displacement. But here the amount of displacement in the both springs are same, because these both springs are connected to this rigid body, and this is rigid body is it's always vertical in position, so that it will causing the same amount of displacement in the both springs, but the force is divided between these two springs. For example, here the force is F1 and here force is F2. So total force F equal to F1 plus F2, but delta is the same in the both the cases. So what is the delta? Delta equal to F by K1 equal F1 by K1 equal to F2 by K2. So from these two equations I can write delta K1 plus delta K2, and again I will replace this entire system with some other spring which is having a stiffness of K equivalent, and which is causing a same amount of displacement delta. So that is a delta into K equivalent. From this equation we can derive this one, K1 plus K2, delta K equivalent equal to K1 plus K2. So from these two equations, one in series and one and in parallel, we need to find out. And here in this system, since I attach these springs in this way, everyone can easily figure out that these are in the parallel. But in some scenario, the same springs can be connected in this way, like so this is also nothing but a parallel position. Why? Because this is a fixed one and this is also fixed one, and these two springs are opposing the mass to move away from the mean position. For example, if it is a mean position and if you are moving in this direction, because it's trying to compress, so that it's opposed in this direction, it try to expand the spring, so this is also in this direction. So both springs forces are acting in the same direction. Here also the spring forces are acting in the same direction here also. So that means in the both cases the springs are trying to oppose the movement of the mass from its mean position. When the torsional spring is used, so we have a force equal to, in the linear spring we have force equal to K into delta, but in case of torsional spring we have a force equivalent to force in torsion or rotational kind of arrangement. Then moment is equivalent to the, so moment equal to kt into, instead of linear displacement we have a angular displacement. Here kt is the torsional stiffness. This damping arrangement is simple cylinder and piston arrangement. So here in the cylinder we have some liquid, and whenever we give some force or some movement to the piston part, this directly not transmitted to the cylinder part, but instead some viscosity would be because of the viscosity some of the energy would be lost in between, and this reduced or modified displacement would be given to the cylinder, and the same amount of force is transmitted to the cylinder also. The same amount of force, here force also F, same amount of force is transmitted to the cylinder, but only thing is energy would be consumed here. So what is the energy? Force into distance. So before the energy given to the piston is F into x1 equal to the energy came out of the cylinder, that is F into x2, and a certain amount of energy is lost due to the viscosity in the liquid, that is E loss. and from this equation this is always positive. So when this is a positive and f is the same, we can derive that x2 is less than x1. That means x2 is less than x1. That means the vibrating or the movement of the cylinder will be are increased. So that's what we are talking about. So whenever we come across the vibrations, we need to use the damper. If you don't want to have a maximum amplitude in our system, the force cycles given to the piston is increased. That means within small period of time the number of force cycles are increased, but how quickly the cylinder also responds, that's what important here. So in case of damping, the force is proportional to the change in displacement from the starting to the end with respect within a time. That means it's automatically nothing but x1 minus x2 divided by t. That is nothing but velocity. So let's say this x1 minus x2 is a x, then it's a x dot. So force in the damping is proportional to the x dot. And for the some proportional constant c into x dot, where c is the damping coefficient. And again here also we can see dampers when connected in series and also in the parallel. When the dampers are connected in series, this damper C1 is making displacement x1 and C2 is displacement x2, but force in the two dampers are same. So that means force equal to f equal to, or f1 equal to C1 into x1 dot, that equal to C2 into relative velocity, because this is moving x2 but its base also moving x1 distance. So that is nothing but x2 dot minus x1 dot, because here f1 equal to f2, so we need to equate this one. And if I write x1 in terms of x2, so x1 dot equal to c2 into x2 dot by c1 plus c2. And if I substitute this c1, or if I replace this entire damping system with the equivalent damper CEQ, which is making same amount of displacement x1 dot, then f equal to here, then in that case f equal to c equivalent into x1 dot. So if I equate f1 equal to f, where f1 equal to c1 into x1 dot, so c equivalent equal to c1 c2 by c1 plus c2. So this is exactly like springs in series. So when dampers are in parallel, so it's two dampers are moving the same amount of displacement, but forces in the dampers are different. Here it's a f1 and here f2. So f1 plus f2 equal to f, and but f1 equal to c1 into x1 dot or x dot plus c2 into x dot equal to f. But f, if I replace the entire system with the equivalent damper c equivalent, which is having a same amount of displacement x, then it is a c equivalent into x dot. So again it's a c equivalent equal to c1 plus c2. So this is also equivalent to the springs in the parallel connection. So with these basics, we will move on to the actual vibration problems. First of all, we try to formulate the equation of motion for the different types of systems, and after that we try to solve and analyze the solutions, and after that how to isolate the vibrations.